Bases Dropped on Soccer's morning show, Soccer Down Here. It's Thursday Thoughts. There's a lot of stuff to get into today on a bunch of different fronts, and a lot of it has to do with women's soccer. We now know that there is a bid that has been placed as of yesterday, a joint bid, U.S. and Mexico, and they are expressing the desire that they should have the 2027 World Cup, U.S. and Mexico, on the women's side. I know that it makes a lot of sense on a bunch of different fronts when it comes to, plotting and planning and all these kinds of things. So, Jarrett, 2027, and it's not really a surprise if you think about it, at least logistically. Word came out yesterday, late last night, that the U.S. and Mexico are prepping a joint bid for the Women's World Cup after this one in 23 in Australia, New Zealand. It makes a lot of sense for 27 to be here in this hemisphere.
Yeah, it does. We'll see if they make it happen. We'll see what the rest of the bids look like as well, because it's not ever. I feel like it's never going to be as cut and dry as we want it to be. Okay. First of all,
here you go. He's revved up already.
Last night was like a hell of a time to be just like dropping news, y'all.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
Between that and the Vegas Oakland A's thing,
y'all
didn't even wait for Friday. Y'all just decided to news dump like beasts. Jesus.
Well, it's because that when some of us were growing up in the news business, it's like the news cycle kind of stopped at like 5 o'clock or after the 6 o'clock news at 6:30 when you tossed the national. And then maybe you had some stuff going on at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
But, 11 o'clock, you're almost recapping. Oh, hey, look, here's some highlights. And here's what happened earlier in the day. And you rerun a soundbite. Maybe you run some posts. Not so fast, my friend. See, and if I had a Ticonderoga 2 pencil, I'd wave it in the air and I would pick it up and go. But, no, you got that. You have what happened in Kansas City yesterday with Current firing their coach after 3 matches, and there's a lot of questions there. You have all right. So let me see if I've got all of this stuff right. So, Man City's going to offer Erling Haaland a new deal as they're trying to erase the release clause. Sunderland is coming on tour to the United States. The Brasileiro has games being investigated for match fixing. James Sands has criticized the Scottish Premiership, claiming that Major League Soccer is a better test than the SPFL.
Are they going to get as mad at him as they did with Giacomakis?
Oh, I don't know. So from our friends at World Soccer Talk, Chris Moore, James Sands spent some time on loan with Rangers. He was supposed to remain there for the remainder of the current campaign, but he asked to cut the loan deal short. The American's playing time had diminished, returned to NYCFC in March, stated started every MLS match since being put back in the squad. So James Sands says they asked about the competition. He goes, I really look forward to those sorts of challenges. That's something that I get here in MLS that I didn't get at all really in Scotland in the league there. So it's a nice change. Those guys, meaning the opposition, will get the better of me sometimes, but it's all about learning. I'm still a young player trying to improve. So those are night shifts I really look forward to. So he wasn't a fan about what he was trying to learn about in the SPFL.
I mean, we talked about this. Giacomakis talked about it too. I don't think anyone I know Scotland gets really defensive about it, but yeah, man, the league is top heavy as hell. If you're not playing one of the two old firm teams, I don't know how else to say this because I've said it God knows how many times. Unless you're playing one of those teams, you're going to be playing the team that's bunkering.
Yeah.
I mean, for Giacomakis, it was tough because you're playing a team that's bunkering. For Sands, he's probably playing as a 6. Okay, most of the time you're like just recycling the ball. Occasionally you're dealing with a break. That's about it, man. And then it's more brute strength and a beat 'em up than it is a game sometimes, especially with some of the smaller teams. Like when you got to go play at the Tony Mac against Livingston, the Scots call it terror ball. If they're calling it terror ball, geez.
Tony Macaroni.
Yeah. the spaghetti had.
Yes. See, and that's one of the things that a lot of folks, that they don't, because of your deep dive into the
Degeneracy.
SPFL. Well, let's call it a deep dive.
Call it a degeneracy. It's okay.
I mean,
I've made peace with it. It's fine.
The way that things are, you know more about the SPFL than any other human being, I think, on this side of the Atlantic.
Oh, I highly doubt that. There are plenty of people who probably know more than I do. I will push back on that, and I will highly doubt it. This is just degeneracy, is what it is. That's okay. It's okay to be a degenerate sometimes.
Okay. Let's see. What else do we have this morning? Apparently, a Saudi lawyer has pushed for Cristiano Ronaldo to be arrested and deported for an obscene gesture.
Okay.
Let's see. So he was playing for Al Nassr against Al Hilal when the alleged incident took place. And as he was leaving the pitch, he felt compelled to grab the front of his person, shall we say. And there were, certain elements of the front of his person that he grabbed. And he, as he was leaving the pitch, they were chanting the name of Lionel Messi inside the King Fahd Stadium in Riyadh. And if it is deliberate, that particular movement and that behavior is considered illegal in Saudi Arabia. Lawyer Nouf bin Ahmed said she has filed a complaint with the Saudi prosecutor's office, adding Ronaldo is accused of committing a crime of public indecency.
Okay, here's the thing, though, man. Like, places, we had this conversation in the lead up to the Cup.
Mm-hmm.
There are some places where you don't really want to go to if you're not going to be able to play by the rules.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a sense of humor that they are aware of.
No. Quote, it is considered a crime of public dishonor, and it is one of the crimes that entails arrest and deportation if committed by a foreigner, the lawyer said, Ahmed, who specializes in international law. And apparently they spent hours on their version of SportsCenter talking about it. Mohammed Al-Anzi, who works for the show, spoke with Al Nassr sources who claim the Portugal star made the gesture because he suffered a knock during the match. Other Saudi journalists were left unimpressed and called on the Saudi Arabian Football Fed to terminate his contract. 11 goals in 11 matches for Al Nassr so far this season. But apparently, yes, Jason Nix, he grabbed his Ronaldo's, so to speak. Yes. Yeah. So, and I think that they did have to, or at least if they didn't change the law, Nix, they're at least kind of not necessarily, how do we phrase this? Enforcing it to the 100% enforcement level, because he is living with his girlfriend. He is not living with his wife. So, So Nix is already calling for selective enforcement. So, so when Messi goes across town to Al Hilal, then you've got the two of them promoting Saudi 2030, and Al Hilal and Al Nassr, and Modaflow. Welcome back, Modaflow. By the way, Modaflow loves it. Cristiano went to Saudi Arabia to chill and be king, and everyone is chanting Messi, Messi, Messi. And now, so all right. So I'm going to let our guest, who's parachuting in for 15 minutes, I let her get the drink from the coffee mug before we bring her in. Jessica Charman, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing, John?
All right. Well, so do we get to talk about Andy Carroll since you're wearing?
Yes, I was just on a Reading FC podcast talking about Andy Carroll, so I'm more than happy to reiterate how, if we get relegated, Andy Carroll is the villain of Reading FC. along with financial fair play. Let's be completely honest here. Financial fair play has kicked us in the butt, and the EFL, if you're under EFL guidance and you still carry on breaking the rules, how is that not on EFL as well? They're signing off on all your deals. Financial fair play, sort yourself out. Rant over.
Early in the second half, apparently Andy Carroll opened the scoring for the Royals with a header from a corner, but then on 56 minutes, given his marching orders when it looked like he had gotten his Reading second with a header, Then apparently he did a Diego Maradona, punched
It was literally a hand of God, John, like arm outstretched. Our new manager, since Ince is no longer with us, I might add, Noel Hunt, did what a manager should do and tried to defend his players and said that Andy's devastated. He was trying to jump. Can someone tell me if it's effective to jump with your hand outstretched in terms of like your whole arm in front of you? I'm pretty sure.
It is when you're a 6-year-old.
Yeah. When you're a grown man like Andy Carroll, you think that's an effective way to get explosive power in a jump with your arm outstretched? I'm not sure about that one.
Oh, goodness. See, now
I'm like very upset about this happening because we were on our way to 3 points and we were in 19th position if we'd have got those 3 points, and instead we're still in the relegation battle. I don't want to be a League One fan, John. I'm sorry. It's just not in me.
Well, I mean, I'm forced to be a League Two fan because of my Wombles who didn't get to stay in League One, so they're in League Two, and I think that's pretty much where they are. But we got Jess to the bottom of the hour. She's finished with one show, parachuting into this one, and then she's off and running, doing all the other things, getting prepared for anything and everything. Jared, what's the first question on your mind for Jessica Charman this morning?
Oh my God. Well, honestly, the Reading thing that was worth its weight in gold. Everything after that is just icing on the cake because I needed that in my life. I guess. Okay. I've been wanting to ask you about this because it's been going around for the Atlanta circles for a while now. The Brad Guzan injury and the treatment of goalkeepers, because it was 2 straight games where he got absolutely wiped out and kicked. And I wanted to get your thoughts on just the protection of goalkeepers or lack thereof.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one, right? Because I saw particularly the video where he gets the injury, which, by the way, is so sad for Brad. I think any player at that stage of their career that fights back from that initial injury and then gets a second blow, it's heartbreaking, right? And I think there are a lot of people when Brad got his first injury last year that thought that would probably be it. And I was one of them thinking, okay, like maybe he's going to go into a coaching role. For him to come back and be playing well, I might add, like against Charlotte, he had a very good game. Like he's been a good goalkeeper. It's heartbreaking for him. I look back at the foul and it's a foul. I think anytime, we know the rule, if the goalkeeper has the ball under their control, it doesn't have to be 2 hands anymore. I think that's some of the issue. People don't understand the rule. The ball just has to be in the goalkeeper's control. That's a very vague wording, which maybe is part of the issue as well, but it's not the olden days of you must have 2 hands on the ball before you can challenge. So I think fans need to understand the wording of that rule. I look back, is it a straight red? I don't think it's a straight red. I do think he's trying to go in and win the ball, but I think it has to be a caution in terms of the minute that you make contact with a goalkeeper. It should always be a caution for me. The irony is, like you alluded to, Jarrett, how often have we heard that old phrase, goalkeepers are overprotected? I almost feel like that phrase has been heard so many times now that it's almost in the back of referees' minds. And they now are trying hard to prove that they're not overprotecting them. So instead, they go the other direction. For me, I think that, and you know this being in the youth soccer circuits here and there, it's already so difficult to convince parents that their kid has potential to be a goalkeeper. And as a goalkeeper coach, I get it. They're terrified. They're worried their kid's going to get kicked in the head. They're worried that this is going to happen to their child. Now, if we're not seeing these kids protected, even at the youth level, which is starting to happen, I believe that I've seen more challenges be accepted even in the high school game this year. It's a concern to me because you're not going to find as many crazy nutheads as I was, who was pretty excited about the prospect of being kicked in the head these days. So I think that if we're going to develop goalkeepers going forward, you have to find that balance. Look, I'm not saying every time there's a corner, if someone comes in and challenges me, that it should be a whistle blown. That is frustrating. But I'm saying that anytime it jeopardizes the safety of a goalkeeper when they have the ball within their control, or when it's very clear they're going to get there ahead. I think back to the Petr Cech, Stephen Hunt injury, how I was there. If you know the keeper's going to get there ahead of you, you have to find a way to get out of the way. And I think that we're not seeing that as much anymore.
We got a lot of topics to get to with Jess here in 10 minutes. See, Jess, I have my brackets out for the GHSA. I have my brackets because there's a particular team that came in from Region 4, team number 4, and they beat Southeast Bullock traveling to East Georgia.
That was far. That was a long bus ride.
going from Noonan to Brooklet, that is pack a lunch, a dinner, and a midnight snack, plus a rain delay.
Oh.
You win there, and then you put 7 on the board against Shaw, winning by a touchdown. So coming through as a 4 seed, who are you playing next? Cherokee Bluff or Lovett?
We play Lovett. Lovett won in overtime, 3-2 in that game. So very different games coming into Monday's matchup. So it's going to be a tough one. I have a lot of respect for the way that Lovett play, and we know that they're in a very good catchment zone when it comes to attracting kids to come play soccer and kids that play a lot of soccer. But I think we very much are aware that we're the underdog going into this one. We're the number 4 seed, so we should have been an underdog in all the 2 games that we played so far in this one. But as we know with knockout soccer, anything can happen. And either way, for a first year in 4A, I think we have exceeded a lot of expectations. But I got to shout out the whole region, because for all 50% of the Elite 8 teams are made up of our region. If that doesn't tell you that we are in an exceedingly strong region, with Whitewater, Stars Mill, LaGrange, and Trinity all making it, it's something I'm very proud of, because I think that a lot of people forget this area down in Peachtree City and Coweta in LaGrange, whatever county, Troup County, right? I think.
Yeah,
I'm getting there with my geography. That it's a very strong area for soccer, so it'll be an interesting matchup against Lovett, but anything can happen.
Yep, Quad A girls. TCS is at Lovett. Stars Mill is at Westminster. Holy Innocents, who was in a shootout with Heritage Catoosa, winning 7-4, goes to Whitewater. North Oconee hosting LaGrange. That's your Quad A girls. And a subtle plug, we've got the doubleheader at River Ridge tonight on the network. So River Ridge going up against Sprayberry on the boys' side, Roswell on the girls' side. Roswell coming through as a 4th seed. And follow along on your social medias for your broadcast times. Jarrett, since I've covered high school, what do you want to keep catching up with Jess about?
Oh, my God. Okay, well, let's
I caught him.
Well, no, it's fine. Well, it's also like I'm also having a lot of like mental similarities to the goalkeeper thing, because I caught for years and no one wanted their kid to be a catcher because you had to be suicidal to do it. So I understand kind of that mindset. And the parents' mindset of, we don't really want him to be behind the plate because your body breaks down and you're just going to get trucked a lot. So I get that. But I guess as far as if we shift it back to the professional side of things, we wanted to catch up about the development in Charlotte with a team that's it kind of seemed like they didn't start the season the way they wanted to. Latanzio seemed like he was tinkering with things a bit, and it seemed like they were on their way to 3 points the other night before the goal that Colorado scores late on a really weird play. But it seems like they're finding their footing after a bit of a slow start.
It's been so tough. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's been really, really tough, because anyone that's followed the Charlotte FC, if they've watched MLS 360 and seen the games, I would say 80%, seriously, 80% of the goals we've conceded have been individual errors, in terms of whether it's that goalkeeping error that you sort of subtly hinted at, Jarrett, from George Marks, with the through ball that he was already thinking about distributing, and it goes through his hands and he takes his eye off the ball. Heartbreak for that kid that's only in his 2nd year of professional soccer, by the way, George Marks, who has been brilliant since he's filled in the boots. That was a rare error, but a very, very costly error. I think back to own goals. I think about St. Louis and the St. Louis goal that so many defenders seem to give to St. Louis during this season, the present. Yeah. And I think Latanzio put it best when he said, we seem to get very good cue bites from our managers at Charlotte FC. I believe the words were, it's like Christmas Day every day for Charlotte FC, but for the opposition, as we keep giving them presents. And that is exactly how it feels right now. Have we improved going forward? Definitely. If you've looked at the goals we've scored, they've been really good goals. But I think, without bringing the tone down, a lot of people underestimated the impact that Anton Walkes' passing was going to have on this side. Yeah. And a lot of people are questioning, why is the home form so different to last season? And I'm reading between the lines here. Obviously, I haven't had anything said to me specifically, but even when I step foot in the stadium and I see, the AW5 on the field, and you see the pictures of Anton in the locker room and on the way, it creates this it's hard to find the right words. It creates this emotion inside of you. And I think that for the players who were friends with him, that spent their lives with him, that were like living around each other, seeing each other every day, it's very hard not to feel some sort of emotional sensation when you go into Bank of America Stadium, whether for, it's always a blessing to have Anton with you in your thoughts and in your presence, but it's difficult to focus on playing soccer. And I think that people were very quick to say this was going to be the inspiration behind Charlotte FC having an incredible season without remembering the human nature behind loss. And I think that there has still been a huge struggle, not only on the field. I think we miss Anton more than anything on the field because of his leadership, because of his presence, because of what an incredible footballer he was, but also his presence in the locker room. And so that's been a really tough moment for Charlotte to try and sort of move on for that. So I think that's been hard. And then I just think you mentioned the word tinkering with the lineup. We haven't really found our best 11 yet. And when you're 8 games in, that's a little bit concerning. And the games don't get any easier when you have Columbus coming to town. And I think Atlanta United fans can talk. And I know you guys were missing a lot of players with international duty, but you saw what Columbus can do. And I've got a phone call with Jason later in the day to prep Columbus, and I'm going to be very interested to hear what he says about them.
I mean, and Jess, before you go, I mean, there's the weight of responsibility and the weight of not wanting to let someone down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's part and parcel to this as well. You don't want to let Anton down. You don't want to let that legacy down.
Yeah.
You want him on whatever plane you believe in, PLANE. You don't want him to be disappointed in you, so that weight is always going to be there on your shoulders.
Yeah, and I think we saw that in the games. It felt like there was this just emotional pressure, because as we've said so often, this doesn't happen. Like, so many people, journalists were asking all the time, have you ever had this experience before? And you want to kind of grab them by the shoulder and say, what do you mean? Like, when have you ever heard of this happening when a player is active? Like, there's no blueprint on how to handle losing your teammate during the season while on preseason, while you're around each other. So I do think there's a huge emotional component to why Charlotte's struggling, but at the same time, they wouldn't want to use that as an excuse. I know that they've been very vocal about that as well. So yeah, I'm just reading the comment. Yeah, it's hard to talk about that side of things, but I think it's important to note that, they've done a great job of honoring Anton in so many ways, and I've been very proud to be a part of this football club on that component, because it was the toughest time in my career as well, because of the individual connection I had with Anton as well. So I think Lattanzio has been very clear that they want to find the right way to move on for it to not be a huge talking point, but it's hard to ignore it, and I think it's important to offer that to people. Are very quick to criticize Charlotte right now for this season and the slow start. And yes, the football hasn't been great, but I think you do kind of get that get out of jail free card a little bit because of what we're going through as a club as well.
Yep. Last question for you comes from Modiflo. Modiflo wants to know if you think Lattanzio is doing a better job than Miguel Angel Ramirez.
Yeah, I do in a lot of ways. I think that what he's doing differently is empowering some of his players. We've seen more youth come in. We've seen more trust. I think that he needs to be a little bit more flexible with his formation. And I think that he is struggling to find the personnel. And I think it's hard when a lot of your goals are coming from individual errors. It's not really so much the fault in the system. It's a fault in the focus, in the way that players are thinking on the field. They're just not being able to stay concentrated and focused for a full 90 minutes. So he's got to find something to change it very quickly. I think he would be the first to say that his job is in the hot seat a little bit, because Charlotte FC has been very ambitious. We knew it last season when they said a playoff position was a must. We fell short of that in the last couple of games of the season. And this season, with it expanding to the 9 teams, it's imperative that they make it, because you don't want to be one of those bottom, doing the math, 5 teams that don't make it. Like you the odds are in your favor this time around. So something has to change. I think there has been levels of improvement, but you look back again at the points that you're leaving on the table, to be in the 90 plus minutes and to have a goalkeeping error like that, to be up against Real Salt Lake and to crumble in 6 minutes and concede 3 goals. These things are very bad for a manager, and he's well aware of that. So I think Lattanzio is a better man manager than Angel Ramirez, as we heard with the "we're screwed" comments. I think that kind of epitomized how he was as a manager and the lack of faith he had in his players. One thing I like about Lattanzio that stands out to me is that if players make mistakes, he gives them the time. He always says, I want to give them, 10, 15 minutes of grace to make up for their errors before I make changes. So I like that about him, putting trust in his players. But something has to change, because it's all well and good to be sitting outside the playoff position after game 8. But once you get to game 11, game 12, those gaps start to get a lot bigger, and a win's not going to change as much. So I think everyone's looking forward to May 13th, though. That's going to be a battle at the Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah, it is. And there's some things that, that as we get closer, we'll talk about some of the ancillary stuff. Broadcast plans for you and Willie P this weekend.
Yeah, we're going to be on FNZ, which is 92.7 in Charlotte area, but you can download the app and listen to it anywhere. But what's really cool with Apple TV is that we can sync it up for the home games, and hopefully they're going to bring the away games next year, because I know that's the one people really want to listen to. But looking forward to it against Columbus. Like I say, it's going to be the games don't get any easier, but when you haven't picked up a single win yet at home, and your home was considered a fortress last year, something has to change, and it has to change quickly, John.
Trinity Christian, a 4 seed, playing Lubbock on Monday. Jess is very, very busy, one of the busiest people in show business, and we are blessed when she can come in and parachute in. Christian Kalina, by the way, getting reps at Crown Legacy, also another good sign for Charlotte. Thanks for hanging out, and go to the rest of your day. Be safe.
Thanks so much, everyone. Take care. See you soon.
There's Jessica Charman, everybody. And that was Rapid Fire with Jess. I guess that's probably the segment. Was probably what we should call it, Jarrett. Rapid Fire with Jess. Like 9 different things we had to talk to her about.
Apparently in like a super short amount of time too, no less. It happens. I know Nick and I have talked about this a lot, about the Anton Walkes thing, and I know we've talked about Anton Walkes a lot. And it's going to happen because of the impact he had in Atlanta and Charlotte, and two of the bigger southern cities. And Nick and I had talked about it before, that like we didn't think the national media was giving the right amount of, how do I say, not excuse or gravity to the Anton Walkes situation. Like, kind of felt like the national punditry was, it's a tragedy and it's awful. And I don't know if they gave it the sufficient gravity for how it was going to impact Charlotte on and off the field.
Yeah, I don't think I have seen,
not to say that they downplayed someone's death. No,
right.
Not saying that at all.
But they haven't given its due as a part of the storyline that is attached to Charlotte this year. It has not been included as much as I think it should be when it comes to what we're seeing from Charlotte on the field.
Yeah, and it's, you also have the fact that with Charlotte you get a team that was missing its starting goalkeeper. Again, despite apparently the numbers weren't good last year, Christian Kalina was really damn good as a goalkeeper. You're missing him to start the year. Latancio was getting weird with the way he was organizing the team. There's a lot to unpack with Charlotte, and I felt, I will consistently feel like the Walkes' absence wasn't given the proper gravity, I guess is the word I would use, which sucks because it's to Justice's point. I mean, these guys are basically living every day with the guy. He's just not there, and it's going to cause not just on the field issues, but these feelings off the field of just, I guess, emptiness, for lack of a better word, man.
Yeah, and I mean, it's what you're staring at with all of this. And I mean, I remember we were doing the show in January, and the news comes across, and it was, while we're on the air when this is happening. And I mean, it's not something that you're prepared for in an on-air sense. And then you go from there and you're trying to figure out, okay, how do we handle this in an on-air sense? But then how do we go about doing this and giving it its due across the board all season long as we're trying to talk about it, Well,
I mean, there's no page in the manual of life in how you deal with it, though.
No.
There's no like, oh man, we just had a tragic passing. Flip to page 15 on how to deal with that. It just doesn't exist. So it's heavy, man. It's heavy, and it sucks for everyone involved. It's just But I do think it has had a lot of impact on that team.
Absolutely, it has.
And Mataflo brings it up, and about the differences. If he's been better than MAR. And I think hot seat is an interesting one, and we can start, we can start having these discussions too, because the hot seat's going to be really interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so all right, let's
the league, not just with Lattanzio, but around the league of who's going to be the first one.
Yeah, and I had not included Lattanzio in this discussion, but because now Jess has, we have to. Hey, she has put the information out there, and if that is the vibe locally, that folks are kind of looking at Christian Lattanzio, and when you're 1-4-3 after your first 8 matches, and you're only averaging a goal a match, and I know that folks are still looking at Josviak going, bruh, what's going on here? But I mean,
he scored last game, I think.
Right, but all right. So let's.
I honestly think Josviak getting off the deck a week or two ago honestly will help.
All right, so let's take a peek at what's going on below. Let's go below the playoff bar. We'll start there. And work our way. Yeah, Ricky, obviously, Vanny is a part. We haven't got to the Western Conference yet. All right. Losada, Montreal. By default, I think he's on the hot seat.
Yes.
1 win in
Montreal's
7 matches.
Absolute mess.
3 goals scored, 17 allowed in 7 matches. You're actually here. Let me see if I can. I want to do this right. So I'm looking in the Google machine, and I want to get this correct. Feu de poubelle. Basically, tu es un feu de poubelle, and you're a dumpster fire. Feu de poubelle is how you say dumpster fire in French. I had to look that up. So, Montreal, definitely. Charlotte, I hadn't thought of it, but because of injuries and Anton and all this kind of stuff. But Lattanzio, 8 matches, 6 points next to last, 1-4-3. You've given up an average of 2 goals a match, and once again, you only scored 9 so far this year. So, okay, Lattanzio is a part of that discussion. Miami at 2-5. Is Neville a part of the discussion?
I don't think Neville is yet. Yet being the operative word, which is wild because I thought he should have had some down ballot votes last year for Coach of the Year.
Yeah, I thought so too.
That being said, that was then. This is now. We are in a business of what have you done for me lately?
Correct.
And right now, they just have not been. They've not been great this year at all. I think they won their first 2 games.
Yeah,
and then that attack is just listless.
Yeah. It is non-existent.
And I know he made the comment about, we need more out of Joseph. And I get it. You want more out of Joseph Martinez. It's not just Joseph. It's Gregory not being there has an impact on it as well.
Gregory has been big. Yeah. Gregory, big part of this.
Yeah. He's a great player. He's also captain on that team. And we talked about this last year with Atlanta, that when you're missing a guy, when you're missing a guy who, and not just talent wise, but also leadership wise, it can create a big hole for things. We talked about it last year because Atlanta lost 2 of those guys. Mm-hmm. So it's really tough. I don't think Miami's there yet, but if they continue to not win games, then by default, he should be part of that conversation.
All right. So who else is below the playoff bar in the Eastern Conference? You're looking at Struber in New York, and that might be because of external circumstances, not necessarily because you're only a point out of the playoffs at 1, 2, and 5 out of your first 8. I know.
See, the thing is as well is some of these guys at the bottom, if you're in what is an expected rebuild,
Yeah.
like Wayne Rooney isn't going to get blown out unless it's like a Losada level thing of this man caused a low grade mutiny in the locker room. I think it's going to take something like that because poor performance alone, I don't think would get a guy like Wayne Rooney fired.
Right.
That's just me. There's a lot to unpack about it. Like,
yes,
about who's going to be, who's going to be on the hot seat, who should be, who should not be. Obviously, we know that for new managers, Columbus is just gangbusters, so we don't have to worry about them.
No.
Which was hilarious because Caleb Porter would have been an interesting one had he still been there.
Yes. Then I think let's see. Will was wondering about Chicago, but Ezra Hendrickson is only
Hendrickson's not doing bad, man.
Yeah, I mean 2-1-4. You're at 10 points. It will be an interesting test for them. I mean, they're 1-0-4 at home. I know that you're looking at that, but I think Ezra Hendrickson is safe, and I think everybody else in the East is pretty safe in that regard. Maybe, depending on what happens in the postseason or something like that, do they look at Gary Smith? Do they look at Oscar Parejas, the one and done, something like that? Bob Bradley, I think, is safe, when it comes to Toronto.
Yeah.
Especially
now that Bob Bradley might actually be pragmatic.
Yeah.
And
we mean that in the good way, not the pragmatic like he was when they were down here playing Atlanta United for 90 minutes.
Well, that's the thing is, like, when he did that, it just kind of felt like, oh, man, this guy, like, Bob Bradley's refusing to play. What the hell, man? And now I'm like, oh, now that he's done it for a couple times in a row, you're like, oh, maybe Bob Bradley's realized that he can't just race the entire oval with the car up against the wall the entire time.
You can't do a Ross Chastain.
You cannot. You can do a Ross Chastain. You can't do a Ross Chastain continuously. That's the problem.
Well, that's true.
Bob seems to have figured that out.
Yeah, because you can't keep taking the car to the body shop between all your races and go, okay, fix the right hand side, fix the passenger side, paint and body work and paneling, and replace all that stuff. Make sure that you have 2 good tires at the end of the race, that kind of thing. All right, in the West, we've looked at Kansas City and Los Angeles, and LAG and Sporting together have 6 points.
I mean,
Yeah, and programming note: Thursdays with Nico's on at 12:30. By the way, so we'll get his thoughts on this as well. But
Gerhard Struber is also a really good shout because, and his might even be just because of the fact they absolutely ham-handed this whole Vizier thing. So just the inept way in which they seem to have handled that problem might lead to his exit.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the other one that I was looking at below the playoff bar. Was Red Bulls.
Well, on top of it, like I think Matt Doyle wrote about it this week. And I saw a number of on the socials, which is it's you always have to take it with a grain of salt because it doesn't represent everybody. Vocal minority, sometimes vocal majority, other times. Yeah. There were people who agreed that it's the whole thing that like Carnell taking over St. Louis and Red Bulls not bringing him in and letting him go. It's like that might end up being a hell of a decision. It also might change with the fact that when we think about somebody spending, we don't think about Red Bulls. And they have consistently missed on so many guys. Because, for instance, when we talk about the differences between, and Rich, turn your ears on. This is the time when we talk about Philly. When we talk about the differences between like what Philly does and what Red Bulls do, they both play really aggressively. Both play a high press. Both like to get a little bully ball about it. When it comes to the playoffs, what Red Bulls had consistently been missing in the playoffs was that guy, what they hoped Kaku would be, and he wasn't, was that guy who could be the difference maker, who, hey, this game is tight. They don't want the ball either. Like, we got to have somebody come in and grab this game by the throat and do things. it kind of felt like for Philly that would have been Ilsinho at a certain time when he was coming off the bench. But aside from that, like, guys like Gazdag, man, like, Philly got those moves right. That other like a team like Red Bulls did not get right.
Yeah.
And Red Bulls have consistently gotten those wrong. And now Van Zier feels like another one. I don't know, like, man, even with the comments like from Neelis, like, I don't know if y'all can put Van Zier back in that locker room.
Yeah. And that is another question of all of this. Can you have him back in that room?
I don't know. I honestly don't. That's not a question I don't think for any of us to answer.
No. But that's something that you've got to consider with those individuals. Can that relationship be, if repaired is the word? I don't know if repaired is the word or something in that vein, but I don't know if, from a team perspective and a league perspective, because you will always have that specter, right or wrong, as the investigation continues. Like I said, I'm putting this out there for both elements of this, right or wrong, by the end of the investigation. Van Zier will always have that specter hanging over his head with the incident that happened against San Jose. Like I said, right or wrong, by the time the investigation is over, that's always going to be there. It's always going to be in the room. Right or wrong, rightly or wrongly, it's always going to be in the room. And
will absolutely firing shots at Red Bulls. They think they're the Rays, and they're actually a cheap Red Sox. Jesus Christ, that's mean. Because what you know what, you want to drive that point home. Philadelphia Union are the Rays, because go look at how much money Philly spends.
True.
Philly doesn't spend a lot of money. They're getting insane production for like per dollar per win.
Yeah.
Philadelphia is comically efficient about this. That's more Rays with a dash of Carolina Hurricanes bunch of jerks energy.
Yep.
Anyway, Boston lost last night. I'm 3 games away from my dream, John. Don't ruin it for me.
I'm not. Hey, what you do is you run the table like Seattle did when they won 127 games in a season and they got bounced in the first round of the Mariners. When
my dream of the Boston Bruins collapsing in round 1 are a quarter of the way there.
Right there.
And they collapsed last night too. Like, they had a bunch of really bad turnovers. That was amazing.
Knicks, I wonder with Red Bulls if at some point there's a fan revolt, being the feeder team for their network of teams. Clearly, winning MLS Cup is not their priority. And, I mean, honestly, I don't know how many people actually go watch Red Bulls games to begin with, because, and this is something that we've gotten into with Dylan Butler when he's been on, because he lives up there. He lives this. And we have always maintained here on the show and on the network that Red Bull should embrace their New Jerseyness.
Oh, yeah.
Across the board. If I live on that side of the river, and I know that there is a stadium in Harrison, New Jersey, and
Will, you're not wrong.
There's a soccer match. That why should I go if the team is New York Red Bull and they play in New Jersey? And if I've lived in New Jersey and I've grown up in New Jersey and I've been a part of the scene, sports scene. If I go to the Prue and catch up with the Devils, if I go to, if I grew up with the Nets when they played on that side of the river and the Meadowlands and that kind of thing, and before they moved to Brooklyn and all that kind of stuff. If a team is in my state that's basically a carpetbagger next door and they've come across, why should I embrace that? Red Bull, if they were smart, which they haven't been for quite some time, at least in a promotional sense, embrace your New Jerseyness. That way, I think that building gets more full. If I'm in any of the friggin' boroughs in New York, why should I go all the way over to New Jersey and watch something? Why wouldn't I just go to the Bronx and watch NYCFC? Because they're there. That's the thing. And Parzival, if they ever embrace the New Jersey that they are, if they ever embrace the New Jersey that they are, I believe we see their jerseys be inspired by Red Bull F1 livery. That never seems to change. So, I mean, it's just, I think that Red Bulls could do so much more for themselves if they just embrace their New Jersey. And I think that Nick's, you may end up, you may end up with more people there. But right now, why should I go? They're not a part of my fabric. They're not a part of my framework. They're not a part of me. Why should I go in the first place? Even if I am a fan, it's too much of a run from the other boroughs to cross the river.
Just be Jersey. Just be a bunch of jerks. It's okay.
Yeah.
Do it. Just do it.
Yeah. Burn. There's a lot of turmoil in Red Bull world since the owner Mateschitz passed away last year. I'm not sure there's anybody strong enough in their hierarchy now to make big strategic changes, such as selling Red Bull New Jersey, changing their approach, etc. And Burn, that's part of it, because you've got a power vacuum, and no one apparently is strong enough in a business sense to jump into that power vacuum and take things over. And when you have a multi-gazillion-dollar corporation and you lose someone, like a Mateschitz, my upper plate is not working this morning at all.
Your tongue is not designed to do that in another language. It's okay.
No, Mateschitz. There we go. And so that's what you're staring at. And right now, I think that Red Bull are in limbo on a bunch of different fronts, and literally you could take it franchise by franchise. Coco, at this point, Philly has sent as many young players to the European Red Bull clubs as Red Bull, Caden Clark and Brendan Aronson. And Rich, as a resident of New Jersey, there's a difference between North and South Jersey. If Red Bull changed to New Jersey, or RBNY changed to RBNJ, it would help attendance and marketing. And I mean, Rich is there,
And I love that concept of it too, because to Rich's point, there's a difference between, because we talk about this all the time with Georgia, the thing of hey man, you go 20 miles outside of Atlanta, you're back in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of my chief complaints with, when you get Northerners talking about Georgia and talking about the South, of it's not as cut and dry as you want to pretend it is, but neither is any place. To Rich's point, Jersey's it's not a cut and dry it's New Jersey. It's not how big. It's not that big, so it can't be that different. BS.
Yeah. Yeah. So you stare at that. I mean, Bam, if RB wants to be Jersey, they need to go get players that everyone hates, the players that get under the skin of the opposition players and fans.
Man, Red Bull's just going full Philly would be amazing. But
I mean,
and you know what? They kind of had it with Chris Armas.
Yeah.
And then they just didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they did and they didn't. And Knicks, true. RB Worldwide scout Philly harder than New Jersey Red Bull. Burned Mario Gomez, just anointed head of Red Bull International Business last year, but he's new to the group, and I don't think he's done anything noteworthy. Well, and I mean, when you have someone, especially coming in from the outside, that may not necessarily know, new to the group. One of my favorite, by the way, everyone should have Sun Tzu's The Art of War in their library in some manner, way, shape, or form, because its principles apply to more than just what it was written for. It applies to everyday life. It applies to business and business operations. And in the past, I have applied it to my own business operations. One of my favorite quotes in Sun Tzu's Art of War: trust the local guides, for they know the terrain. And then you see what happens in business and in sport if you don't trust the local guides more often than not. And so I think that Red Bull might be in that situation right now with Gomez taking over for Mateschitz. I think that that's what you're experiencing on a global scale with a company that, we got a new guy in charge, but what do we do and how do we do it? And Gomez trying not to step on any toes and try to continue to make sure that things are going as well as they can be business side, promotionally, and all these kinds of things. But you're the new guy. Yeah, you were brought in, but the thing is you got all these folks that were there that probably wanted the gig that you got. And it's difficult for folks to sit there and, want to, if they feel they got stepped on or stepped over, why should they be a part and parcel to you doing well? I mean, that's for me, that's just how it is when it comes to these kinds of things. And Emilio, yeah, New York wants no part of New Jersey, vice versa. And I mean, that's not good. So, I mean, but once again, we cannot be surprised by these kinds of things. We honestly can't. We honestly cannot be surprised by this kind of stuff. If you sit there and you're like, okay, no, that didn't go well. And then you analyze why, and then you overanalyze the why. So, I mean, it gets frustrating, especially for fans that want their team to do well. But when the fans sit there and they go to Jared that the emperor is naked and the emperor doesn't want to listen, then it's entirely and ultimately frustrating in these kinds of things.
It is. And this whole thing hinging back on the fact that we were literally sitting here actually discussing, managers possibly being on the hot seat. And it turns into, geopolitics and
geopolitics down here.
Yeah. SpaceX test rocket blows up.
Yeah.
Will somewhere felt a ripple in the force.
Yes.
Because as he once said, when I asked him if they could build a stadium for Huntsville City, he said they're more inclined to build things that don't stand still. Uh-huh. The things they move at a very fast speed. They don't build things that stay still.
Yeah. A rapid
unplanned disassembly.
A rapid unplanned disassembly. That's fantastic verbiage.
That's just like
that's fantastic.
Just imagine the whole. It's like a solid fuel rocket booster on the old space shuttle program, just disintegrating completely.
That's tremendous. A rapid unplanned disassembly. I'll have to remember that one. That's fantastic. Rich with the Cosmos joke from a long time ago. The Rangers are NYCFC, the Devils are Red Bull, and the Islanders are the Cosmos.
Jesus.
Wow.
That's something.
Yeah. Burned. Oliver Mintzlaff was the strongman in Leipzig after they got rid of Ralph Rangnick, but he moved on to Red Bull, the company, as one of their men's board of directors, and now in charge of, amongst others, Formula One, etc. He doesn't care about Red Bull New Jersey. Yeah. That's and that's the thing. It's, now, all right, so then let me put this to the floor. Yeah, like when Tesla runs over a kid in a crosswalk, unplanned pedestrian encounter. Yeah, that's a great corporate spin. Rapid unplanned disassembly. All right, so then let me ask this. And Bernd, you might have a better description of this than the rest of us because of your insights. Would Red Bull as a corporate organization be better if they sold Red Bull New York, New Jersey off, or still having it as a part of their portfolio based in the United States? Is it just something that they're hanging on to because it's in the United States and gives them that footprint when it comes to the rest of their business?
And even if it does, though, like, they don't give a damn about it. They use it as a feeder. They use it as a little farm club anyway.
It's a line item. It's a line item for them.
Yeah, it's embarrassing though, because
is it to them? But do they care? Do they give a roaring rip? You know what about a stadium and a facility that gets stuff in it and gets international competitions in it? And you've got a team. You have a team that basically pays yourself because you are paying yourself to have a team in a building that's yours. So I mean that's what you're staring at right now with Red Bull. That's the idea.
It's just, I mean, I guess keep it for whatever reason you want, but like they don't seem to care about its success, other than occasionally developing players, and maybe it's a bottom line that counts towards being an asset.
And that's what I'm thinking.
The end.
Yeah, I mean, it is a bottom line toward an asset. That's what I'm thinking. Is that and Coco, Caden Clark has been the poster boy for Red Bull youth development, and he wasn't even ready when they moved him, and he didn't fit the Red Bull way.
Nope.
So, I mean, I mean, if it's a line item veto, I mean, if it's just a line item there in their thing, then I mean, oh, that was a big explosion. Just about 4 minutes in to launch. That was
the SpaceX one.
Yeah, I'm finally peering at it over my shoulder.
I'm always intrigued when they blow up rockets.
Yeah, 4 minutes into launch, it decided not to continue functioning. So it was a rapid, unplanned disassembly. So yeah, that was a bit of a disassembly there. Burned. Good question. Red Bull have never given any hints they want to sell New Jersey. I just don't think they will make any major strategic changes so soon after Mata shit's passed. And and this is what happens when you have large corporate structures that have all of these different tentacles and all these different places. I mean, all right. So let's get into Red Bulls and their soccer properties. All right, so let's see this here and see what we're staring at. Not Red Bull Arena, New York Red Bull. It's like I know Red Bull Arena exists. All right, so Red Bull GmbH. All right, so subsidiaries: Red Bulls, Salzburg, Liefering, Leipzig. Liefering is in Austria, by the way, a section of Salzburg in the second division. So Salzburg and Liefering are in the Austrian. It's Austrian Association, second league. Salzburg is top flight. So 2 teams in the Austrian pyramid: Red Bulls 2, Leipzig, Bragantino 2. The ice hockey team in Munich, Germany, the ice hockey team in Salzburg, Austria, and then whatever. So you're looking at basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 soccer franchises. One in the United States. Technically, I'm keeping Red Bull and Red Bull 2 under the same umbrella. Salzburg, Liefering, Leipzig, and Bragantino in the Brazilian Serie A, and Bragantino too. So you've got America, you have 2 in Austria, you've got 1 in Germany, you've got 1 in Brazil. So that's what you're staring at right now with the soccer properties for Red Bull GmbH. And no, and it's not like in Coco, it's not like buying a lower level EFL club that there are many that can buy in. MLS is a small club of people that can actually afford the buy-in. So, and Bam mentioned that you're staring at Forbes with a valuation of $525 million. There are very few individuals / entities that could drop 525 and just sit there and say, tell you what, Red Bull, thanks for dropping by. We're going to send it back to being Metro Stars. We're going to call it New Jersey and call it a day. There ain't a whole lot of folks that can do that. Yeah, and Nick, you're right. People want to be in Major League Soccer. It is a good investment. And maybe that's where Red Bull are, part of keeping their idea in Major League Soccer is that it is a good investment. And since their initial investment, it has increased in value to where it is 525 right now. And so they continue to see this as something that would continue to increase in value and help out GmbH's bottom line. Coco, would the Giants or Jets owners be interested in getting into Major League Soccer and probably move the team? But then the question would be, do you keep them but you probably would have to buy the arena also. You would have to buy the arena in Harrison in as much as you would want to move them if you were the Giants or the Jets, move them into the Meadowlands and have them play there. I don't know if it's. I think it would be wide enough. I think barely it would be wide enough for soccer. But the thing is, you're going to buy the team. You're going to have to buy the arena. You're going to have to buy the stadium and the club. And it's very few folks that are going to be remotely interested in doing that kind of stuff. Yeah, no way. And that's the thing. And Nix, you mentioned, considering the increasing price of a franchise in Major League Soccer, no way you could get in a new franchise for less than $800 million with a stadium. That was specifically the reason why Bill Foley bought Bournemouth, because everybody was thinking, okay, Bill Foley, he's got, the Vegas Golden Knights, he's got VGK, and he's ready to go, and he has all these things there, and he's turned Vegas into like this sports hub for his industries. He was interviewed after he bought Bournemouth for $150. And he specifically said, why would I drop $800 million on an expansion team in Major League Soccer, plus have to build a building, an arena or a stadium or whatever you want to phrase it as, a new live, work, play facility, when I can spend only $150 million and buy into the Premier League? Foley made an economic choice. And right now, he's got a team that's in the Premier League, and he's only spent, what, Jarrett, 150, about 20% of what you would have had to do to buy a current MLS team valuated at $525 by Forbes, plus an arena.
You know what? Let's just make a Clerks 4 and have Kevin Smith buy him.
See, now there you go. That'd be pretty sweet if you did something like that. But then does Kevin Smith speak in Clerks 4?
Actually, I don't think you would do it. If you've seen Clerks 3, you wouldn't really do a Clerks 4. Do like a sequel to Mallrats or something. And yeah, he'll speak. He speaks in every movie, just a little bit though.
Okay.
Because the hook of Silent Bob is that he never says anything, but when he does, you get something like the monologue in Chasing Amy, which is fantastic.
Okay.
Oof, man. Yeah, just let Kevin Smith buy him.
Yeah.
Instead of wearing a Devils jersey all the time, get him to wear a Red Bulls jersey.
Oh, there you go. Or whatever. Or get him just have him wear a new Metro Stars jersey. Coco, buying Red Bull's probably a good bit cheaper than getting an expansion team. It is, but once again, you're having to buy the arena. You're having to buy the RBA too. NFL owners are probably the best list of people that can afford that. Burned. Red Bull has been really patient with their investments, like starting in the 5th division in Germany, moving up. They may just say, we'll play the long game in the U.S. and see what happens in 10 years with the World Cup and such. But they've clearly said they don't want any operating losses in the meantime, meaning big name DPs, high salaries, and stuff. So, I mean, that's what you're staring at with all of that. And Bam says, heard Knicks only has just under 525, so he's short. And so, yeah,
Bam, if you want to get somebody to buy him, and you want to move him down to where you are, we'll take a trip down there. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, so there's that. Coco, if you're building a new stadium on top of the expansion fee, you're approaching $2 billion, assuming $1 billion for the stadium and close to $1 billion in expansion fees. So you're staring at that. And Abby, because he only cares about the bottom line, not about the sport or expanding the sport here at home. The SDH money has definitely not hit Knicks's account. Burn, Red Bull's women just got promoted to the 1st division in Germany, getting into that side of the sport. So, and I've got 544,000 channel points on Twitch. I don't know what that
transfers to.
Yeah.
Tom, like Microsoft rewards points. I don't know what the conversion rate is.
Yeah, couldn't tell you. Chasing Amy gave the favorite trivia team name Bluntman and Chronic from Chasing Amy. Rich Ransom, Newark and Harrison's buying into the New York market, though. The price would have to reflect that. Yeah, Amazon rewards points. The thing is, I just spent a lot of the Amazon rewards points, too. So that was a rather large explosion. A rapid disassembly. So that was, what's the conversion rate, Jeff Bezos? So the thing about Red Bulls is, how serious are they? That's the question here in all of this. How serious are you? Or are you just, chill, playing the long game with the growth market? And I think that right now, at least, it's the latter, especially when you've had all of this stuff happen in the front office of like massive corporate, like excellent, like big ass corporate front office with all of the reorganization up there. So, that's what you're staring at when it comes to Red Bull. You're looking at, man, I mean, it's frustrating. And you have to look at it through the corporate prism. At the same time, you want the league to grow. And in the number one market in the country, you have two teams, one for the next couple of years before they move into Dillon Butler Estates, playing in a baseball stadium or two baseball stadium or a college campus when it comes to their Open Cup and their second team. And a team that is attached only to your DMA by geography, that is kind of out and over there someplace. And the whole integration seems to me like it's disappointing for the league, but you have to sit there and kind of take it from that corporate structure side of things. So I mean that's kind of out there, that's out there. It is out there, but there's plenty to be frustrated about if you're a fan when it comes to anything and everything involving your favorite team or your geography or anything involved in all of this stuff. So, there's Red Bull and your daily frustration with Red Bull, and apparently Coco and Bam are enjoying their points. So they're highlighting messages in the Twitch pitch. You saw something, and this is an Atlanta United kind of a story. You saw something this morning, and outside of the Oakland A's looking at $1.5 billion investment in the Strip in Vegas, a very loose rumor involving Thiago Almada. So
we're going to call it a really loose rumor.
Yeah, I'm not going to give it a breaking news sound or anything like that. It is a very, very loose rumor that we saw this morning. So please, for those who have not had the chance to see, please explain, sir.
Very loose rumor that Napoli is engaged in discussions for Thiago Almada.
Okay.
Show me the money.
Yes.
Show me how many dollar bills you want to plop down on the table, and that will decide if I get out of bed. Like Joe Cocker in the 70s, I don't get out of bed for less than a certain amount of money or however much time I can get Leon Russell to get on stage with me.
That is true. So you're looking at Napoli, maybe, possibly, perhaps. Literally, maybe. This is like when when you go shopping and you're buying winter clothes and you're trying to figure out just how loose the clothes have to be because, you want to go out, you want to take a walk in the winter, or you want to go out and get your miles in, but you want to wear your exercise gear, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you're warm enough. And so you've got like 9 different layers of clothing that are like, if you're a medium, you buy an XL because you want to wear a bunch of layers and stay warm. Right now, this is how loose that rumor is. You're buying XL clothing and you fit into a medium. That's what you're staring at right now with this thing. But, take it as you wish. But
it's coming from an account that's got thousands of followers. So, I mean, and this is the challenge. It's not coming from, one of your Argentine S tiers, right. But it's coming from an account in Napoli that has broken stuff before, but right. I don't know what their success rate is.
Right.
This doesn't mean he's out the door, but it means that you're starting to get some of the grumbling, and maybe it's wishful thinking. Maybe it's somebody said, hey, we should go look at Thiago Almada, which you should.
Mm-hmm.
He's an absolute joy.
Yes.
I highly recommend this.
Yes.
But the very loose rumor that Napoli is very interested in Thiago Almada. So there you go.
Yes. So just like we said,
They got to do something because you got the fact that like you're going to have 2 Milans in the Champions League. Somebody's got to have the attention.
Oh,
or
man.
as Nick said, at least it's not Juve.
Yes, it's Derby della Madonnina on the right-hand side of the bracket. While the rest
going to be so much blood.
Well, and I mean, while the rest of us are distracted by Manchester City and Real Madrid on the left-hand side, which last time I checked, that ain't too bad.
No.
On the right-hand side, you've got a derby, man. You've got a derby. And
Derby.
Coco. Yeah, I mean, with Coco, well, Inter won't be buying any players again this summer. Milan's joining their current model. Napoli could be looking at spending some serious money. Coco, at least with Napoli, we can assume the check would clear. Glaring at Juve.
Oh, man. Juve can't buy a ham sandwich right now, I don't think.
No. They can't put gas in the tank of the Jeep that's on campus. I mean, that is so bad. But no, I mean, like it's hey, if you start at 50, and it's like Mr. Lagerway, sir, can't hear you, Mr. Lagerway. Yeah, Coco, absolutely true. Juve can't buy a pub sub without violating FFP right now. Not wrong.
We should send them a pub sub.
See now, it like is the Atlanta United spicy stub still available for pickup?
I don't know. The one I didn't have that I wanted to have was the Falcon sub that was like spicy chicken, I think, and peach chutney or something like that. Like, it sounded really good.
Okay.
I don't know if the spicy sub is still a thing or not. That's a good question.
Because if it was still a thing, then what you could do is you could if you were somebody who was an Atlanta United fan, you could sit there and take that spicy sub and send it to Juve and go, hey, here's a sub, here's a sub,
Just send them an order from Magic City. Just send them some wings and just be like, hey man, you give us those wings. We'll send you some wings. You send Thiago back. Problem solved.
Yes. So, I mean, that's okay. So Nick says he thinks that the pub sub is still available. Yeah, I know there's a lot going on this morning. It's like when I had a rundown and no, it doesn't. I mean, and it started with the 27 Women's World Cup joint bid with U.S. and Mexico. And, and the thing is, you've got last night. I mean, legitimately last night, and I'm gonna put this to the floor. I got a question. How many of you watched the Continental Classico cash grab from Glendale? I didn't. I mean, it was fantastic to see Caleb Wiley, and that's the beauty of social media these days, is that someone can clip that kind of thing, and then you can see it happen, and you go, woo, and you're happy.
See, it's the first night where I have been able to get to sleep before 10 o'clock, so I did.
Yeah.
Like, that's... I caught up on Ted Lasso yesterday.
There you go.
And that's pretty much it, man. Like, that was what, like, I did that and I went to sleep. So
yeah.
And I get, like, yeah, it's cash crap. It's fine. It is what it is. I was so tired.
Yeah.
I was so tired.
It's just...
I watched Ted Lasso discover total football and then went to bed.
Yes. And so, all right. So, legitimately, I mean, this was a 1-1 draw in front of 55,000. And Ariel Antuna scored in the 55th minute. There was much rejoicing. Jesus Ferreira scored 26 minutes later. There was much rejoicing. And both teams got out of town with a 1-1 draw in front of 55,000 plus.
Yeah. Problem solved.
I mean, legitimately... I guess I know a lot of folks are in the Twitch pitch and they're sitting there going, like I watched the first half and then I was done. Because it's it's like 11 o'clock. I mean, it's here on the East Coast. It's a 10 o'clock start on like 9 different networks. And it's like, okay, what are we watching and where and when and, an hour. So Nick's, all right, so Coco watched the first half, went to bed. Nick's watched the first half, admits it was too late. And Caleb Wiley got a couple of minutes at the end. He got a cup of coffee. And apparently Tom Russo was finishing Yellowstone. Apparently Yellowstone might be finishing itself, and they may kill off Kevin Costner, if you believe the end of the 5th season gossip, rumor, and innuendo that's attached to it, because Taylor Sheridan apparently has gotten too big for his own ego, and they're thinking of just getting rid of the show right now. So Coco, he played 3 minutes, so 1 plus extra. And, it didn't start till closer to 10:30, even better. So, no, Sharif, we were just kicking in talk about U.S.-Mexico. I mean, legitimately, because I want to know how many of you were watching. Byrne was at a high school game, got home at 11:30. Yeah, and Taylor Sheridan, So Taylor Sheridan wants too many spinoffs. It is a cash grab for Taylor Sheridan. And so they may kill off. It's like they may kill off Kevin Costner's character. He wants to go back to doing movies, all those kinds of things. Emilio. I have not seen the new episode yet, because the boss and I traditionally will watch it together, and so we have not seen the Amsterdam episode yet. Seen everything else, just haven't seen the Amsterdam episode yet. And so Ricky, who was up late apparently for the entire thing, almost scored off a deflection 10 minutes in, but should have won. So, I had no real interest in this match. I mean, and I know we had Bart talk about it yesterday as a part of his Wednesday, segment, but you're just kind of like, you're in the middle of a window, and you're in the middle of an MLS schedule, and it's just like you're in the middle of the Liga MX Clausura, and you're borrowing players. I mean, great to see Serginho Dest get minutes. It's great to have that happen. So, I mean, literally you had Sean Johnson, Yedlin, Zimmerman, Aaron Long, Dest, Kellen Acosta, Ferreira, James Sands, Jordan Morris, Brandon Vasquez, Cade Cowell. And then substitutes, you had Morris, Senora, Miazga, Pamakal, Caleb Wiley. Mexico's goal ended Sean Johnson's 803-minute shutout streak, the longest in national team history, dating back to his 2011 debut.
Damn.
So, shots. Literally, you had 13 shots in the match, 1 on target for the United States, 3 on target for Mexico, 2 saves for Sean Johnson, 4 corners total. The U.S. had 15 fouls called on them, 7 for Mexico. Mexico had 3 offside, and they had the possession battle. I mean, I'm just sitting there going, woo, I just woo. That's all that match gave me yesterday was woo. Yay. I just you know why these things happen, but you're more focused on not getting injured. And Anthony Hudson got another rep as the substitute teacher, and nobody got hurt. And Mexico is still still trying to solve their problems of not being able to score, and they still have no answers. And that's probably the bigger thing out of last night, is that Mexico is still trying to figure out their offense and trying to figure out what their personnel is, and all of that stuff. Emilio, isn't the MLS transaction window ending soon? If so, any moves we may want to make? I know that where was the yesterday? I think was it you who saw that the front office was still allegedly, possibly, maybe, probably chasing after folks?
Atlanta?
Yeah, it was like a.
It was a really loose rumor.
Yeah,
that popped up on the Atlanta United subreddit. And I'm out of flow. Please have a seat. I want you to have a seat for your own safety.
Yes.
Because there is a really loose rumor.
Yeah, this is like once again, this is like XXX sweatpants for somebody who wears a medium. That's how
this was a random, like a Twitter account out of Turkey tying Inter Valencia to Atlanta.
Yeah.
to LAFC, saying Atlanta and LAFC are both interested in signing out of Valencia. And this, yeah. All things in the Atlanta stuff can be taken as gospel.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. This is how we do it. Yeah, it was a really loose rumor that Atlanta was one of two teams who were interested in Inter Valencia.
Yeah.
Not sure how you would do that. Not sure how you would get him on the roster. I don't know how he would fit under roster restrictions unless you're going to be moving some people out. But also, again, as we talked about in the green room, look, man, Atlanta's one of those teams that, like, if you want to make a rumor, Atlanta is one of those teams that's going to be in the rumor mill. Like, if I'm saying I need to make a rumor about a player going to MLS who might be a player of substantial name, I'm gonna use Atlanta. I'm gonna use LA, one of the LAs. Galaxy doesn't make sense, although I don't know if people outside of the U.S. really know how much of a tire fire the Galaxy are.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, right now, for those that don't know, Inter Valencia is playing at Fenerbahce, and he is the golden boot leader in the Turkish Super League by almost a dozen goals. He's got 27 goals so far for Fenerbahce this season. The next highest is 16. So, I mean, Erling Haaland has 32 goals. Valencia has 27. So, in league play, then you get into all the other things, and Erling Haaland is, in a planet all by himself. But
remember there were people who didn't think he'd be able to handle England?
Oh, I know. Oh, I don't know if he'll be able to handle the Premier League. Oh, no, not.
It's too fast and physical for him.
Yes.
So he's a Hulk.
Yeah.
He was grown in a lab.
The striking Viking. There's a reason that he's called the striking Viking, people. There's a reason for that. Bam, as an outsider, seeing a USA Mexico in a friendly would bore me. Go play someone outside your confederation for friendlies.
They do it because they can sell tickets, man. That's pretty much A, B, and C of it. They know they can sell tickets to USA Mexico, and they know they'll be able to do it easily. And they can play up. We got a rival. We got a rivalry.
Yes,
I think that's all they care about, man. It is exhausting in that sense because they don't like each other. Oh, well, I mean, you keep playing that card over and over again, and eventually it loses. You can only knock down so many trees with an axe before you have to resharpen the blade.
Yeah,
the blade's getting a little bit dull here.
Bam and Inter Valencia and his LAFC. Yeah, JT would make it work. John Thorrington would definitely try to find a way to make Inter Valencia work. But the thing is, with all the firepower you have up top, who are you getting rid of?
Yeah.
I mean, you're
Valencia, I think 33 now, 32 years old, something like that.
It sounds close. Let me check real quick. But yeah, I mean, you're staring at that, the leading scorer in the Turkish Super League. Inter Valencia is 33. He'll turn 34 just turned 33 back in November. So he's got 46 goals in 84 appearances with Fenerbahce, and he's been there since 2020. Remember, he was with Tigres before he moved over to Fenerbahce. So, he's been lighting it up in the Turkish Super League. But, yes, John Thorrington and his creative math definitely would try to find a way to make it work. But with all that firepower, who are you getting rid of? Are you going to flip Denny Bouanga already? You got
to ride him out, man.
Oh, I know.
Been too good.
So it's just like, we're gonna have all the strikers. We're just
I think you invite upon yourself a very intense form of voodoo if you sell another high performing striker, like in his prime.
Yeah,
I think if you do it again, you're inviting some really dark magic upon yourself.
Well, Bam is maintaining that he's the Vela replacement.
I mean,
which could, that does make, some kind of sense attached to.
At some point, you gotta.
Yeah.
Vela's just Vela's still capable of Vela things. Vela's not. I don't think Vela's capable of doing Vela things for 34 games a year anymore. I
Right.
think those days are done,
Yes.
which is fine. It's a part of growing older, and you also have more firepower. You don't need him to be 2019 Carlos Vela. You can thrive without that. Letting him just pop up when he needs to is a damn good life for him.
Yeah. Michael Head, in discussing matches like the Continental Classico, says, I wonder about the mentality of people who buy tickets to a second-tier lineup for a meaningless match.
Might be a third-tier lineup.
But then again, I'm waiting patiently for my pre-sale time for the EPL matches at the Bend.
Yeah, there's that.
Bam says, as I mentioned, Diego Rossi would be telling Inter Valencia how great LAFC is and how bad Carson is. I mean, but the thing is, Bam, Bam, I think LAG and Carson are kind of they don't need anybody to do their work for them. They're doing a fine job of saying how poor things are on their own right now. I don't think they need a whole lot of help as to how things are that poor in Carson, legitimately. So, no, I think that word of mouth and staring at the standings can tell you about how things are at LAG. Abby heard you could purchase up to 8 tickets for the EPL games. Now, are they doing one match, the other match?
I think it's like a double feature.
Yeah, but I mean, can you buy like one match or the other match, or do you have to buy the session?
No clue.
And are they just going to let it be a full 43, or are they going to open one ticket both matches? Okay. One ticket both matches, and so I'm guessing that because of the matchup that involves Newcastle, that they're going to open up the full barn for this. I imagine that's what they're going to do. Brighton.
Oh man, you got to. I here's the thing. I cannot imagine not opening up the full barn for the Newcastle match.
The return of the prodigal son.
Yeah, man. Mickey's coming home. The whole damn thing. You're gonna put people. You're gonna like put barricade. You're gonna open the roof.
Yes.
And you're gonna put barricades up there and sell tickets up on the aperture if you got to.
Yep. Full open for both matches. Newcastle is 8:15. And I mean, Emilio, I'm right there with you. I like the idea of Leagues Cup. I think it's more interesting than meaningless friendlies, no question. I think I like the idea of Leagues Cup and seeing where you stand. Wrexham has apparently
near killed him.
Yeah, exactly. Wrexham just announced a friendly with Chelsea in North Carolina on July the 19th, and it's going to be at UNC's football stadium the same night as the MLS All-Star game. Why would you do that? Why would you do that, people?
That's warfare.
MLS All-Star game. I mean,
that's a decision.
Oh, that is a decision. Oh, why are you doing that? July 18th at Audi Field. Okay, just close. All right, it was close. The All-Star game is Tuesday. All-Star game is Tuesday, July 18th. Don't scare people. So it's the next night.
That's even okay. That's brilliant then.
Yes,
because that's you've got like your degenerate MLS fans coming off of the high of hopefully. I'm hopeful, man, for MLS Cup or MLS All-Star Game because I want it to be like give me the skills competitions and the dumb stuff. I don't really care about the actual game.
No,
give me the stupidity.
Well, and you know, I will go back to us fixing the All-Star game in an hour and 20 minutes.
Yes.
And if Major League Soccer would like that tape, all they have to do is go back into our library. They can download the Soccer Down Here app, available iOS and Android, and listen to how we fixed the MLS All-Star game.
I think Jason was mortified by that entire thing.
I think he was. But that's the beauty of the whole thing is that we fixed it. We fixed it for you. Major League Soccer, we fixed the All-Star game for you to where it's not. Yes, exactly. You're welcome. And what I may do, on probably over Christmas, is I will replay that show, and that will be the best. That'll be some of the best Christmas programming that we've ever had.
Uh-huh.
And Yes, exactly, Coco. Available on Spreaker, app, iOS, and Android, anywhere where good podcasts are found. And yes, exactly. That is absolutely true. And, but no, that's, it's good that you have.
Falcons fans pay more money for everything, y'all.
That is
And
true.
that's just because being a Falcons fan, you're paying a debt upon your soul.
That is true. You've got, so, and the thing is that with it being in DC, you can just drive down to North Carolina and catch the Wrexham Chelsea match the next day. I mean, it's not far going from DC down to like Raleigh, is it?
I don't know.
But
well, it's still a drive. I've done Charlotte to like last year. We did Charlotte, went up to Shenandoah, which is up by JMU,
right in Harrisonburg, Virginia.
Yeah, but I don't know. Huh.
I know. So that is a big question as to can you get away with it? Can you get away with that kind of stuff? Can you watch the All-Star game, pack it up, go and get down, or shoot, just take a little hop flight and rent another car and connect the dots. Okay, Sheree says it's about 5 hours. That's not too bad. So you get up in the morning, you drive down to North Carolina after seeing the All-Star game in DC, and you can catch Chelsea and Wrexham. So there's that you can play with too. So there's plenty of stuff to play with. But yeah, the Sunderland tour got announced yesterday also. Sunderland is going to play New Mexico United, San Antonio FC, and North Carolina FC at the Lab, at Toyota Stadium, and at North Carolina FC. And you can get, for those of you that believe in World Soccer Talk, $20 off your first ticket purchase through Vivid Seats using the code SOCCER20.
Just get, man, I just want to know, like, how can you get PD Pablo involved in this?
Oh, that'd be amazing. So you've got all of that stuff that you can figure out and face and go all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to think what else was on the board this morning before we got into. Andy Sullivan. Yeah, I wanted to get into that. They had the Challenge Cup starting last night in the NWSL.
Yeah,
and we had our first sacking of the year in the NWSL, and it was the coach in Kansas City after 3 matches, and the phraseology of the dismissal that really didn't go over well with folks because of everything that has gone on in the NWSL over the last year, say. So after 3 games, the coach for Kansas City was dismissed, shall we say. And I want to get the phrasing correct. Oh, and by the way, Amy Rodriguez will be your new head coach for the Utah Royals when they come back online. And so Matt Potter, the head coach of the Kansas City Current, was fired after 3 matches. Daniel Sperry yesterday, and he's been on SDH before. Against the Houston Dash, in a news release, Current said Potter was fired, quote, because of issues around his leadership and employment responsibilities. Caroline Schoblam, serving as the team's interim coach, she was hired in the offseason, and she was the one who led them into the match last night where they beat Houston 2-0. Current GM Camille Ashton said, quote, as beautiful pop-ups block me from reading quotes, "We watch the play on the pitch, we keep a pulse on the locker room, and we're constantly evaluating ways to improve our club through our ongoing process of continuous improvement. We believe now is the right time for this change." And Potter had experience with the women's national team, major college programs. He was a finalist for NWSL Coach of the Year after leading Kansas City to the NWSL championship game in his first season. He'd replaced Hugh Williams, who was reassigned to a scouting and front office role with the team after coaching the Current through their inaugural season in 21. Current started this 22 season 0-4-1 before they got 13 unbeaten, losing twice in their next 17. And so the verbiage of the sacking of Matt Potter did not go over well, and parting ways with Matt Potter. So that was everybody's like, oh, parting of the ways. Caught everybody off guard. Something else has to have been building behind the scenes, according to Daniel Sperry. We don't know what that is yet, but out of the blocks, Caroline Sjöblom got the team to a win last night for the first time in 2023 on Daniel Sperry's article in the Kansas City Star. Focus, energy, and together were the three words that Sjöblom used for the Current to win last night in their debut in the tournament. So then Andy Sullivan came out when she was interviewed and was not happy about the compensation package, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And I want to see, Claire Watkins mentioned what was wrong there. She calls out the frustrating prize money situation. And this is over at Just Women's Sports. The increased Challenge Cup prize pool spotlights the growth of the NWSL, but the $1 million in prize money has also left some players frustrated, not by the amount, but by its relative worth compared to the NWSL Championship. Exact payouts for the Challenge Cup winning players have not been announced. The prize money could outstrip the bonuses players earn for winning the NWSL title. Andy Sullivan said, and midfielder for the Washington Spirit, she appreciates the increase to the Challenge Cup prize pool, but she still finds it frustrating that the winners of the in-season tournament could take home more money than the NWSL champions. Player salaries have increased significantly. Additionally, winners of the NWSL Championship and the Shield receive bonuses of at least $5,000, according to the CBA. But with UKG's new investment in the Challenge Cup, winners of the in-season tournament could earn significantly more. Last season's Challenge Cup handed out $10,000 each to players on the winning team, same amount earned by the players on OL Reign. It cannot be more than the Shield or Championship. Reign midfielder Jess Fishlock wrote on Twitter of the Challenge Cup prize pool, quote, those things are elite, and the Shield is literally the toughest thing to do. Fishlock on Twitter. It cannot be we upping the CC. Great, thanks, appreciate it. Cannot be more than the Shield and the Championship. Those things are elite, and the Shield's literally the toughest thing we do. So that's what folks are staring at right now with that idea. And Claire Watkins had a story come out after the sacking of Matt Potter. And you had a very, very active offseason. You had the Current. Remember, the Current picked up Dabinia, Morgan Gautreau, and Vanessa DiBernardo through free agency. Drafted Michelle Cooper and Alexa Sponstra out of UVA, signing Swedish defender Hannah Glass. And you get those three losses out of the blocks. You get a lot of injuries. Began the season with Dabinia, DiBernardo, Gautreau, Glass, and Kristen Hamilton all out with injuries. Desiree Scott, Claire Lavager, Sam Mewis recovering from their own long-term injuries. And so they've had to adjust to a lack of personnel. And so Claire Watkins was getting into a very, very deep dive on Just Women's Sports about Kansas City Current. So something obviously not right when it comes to the Current. And so that's your run there at Just Women's Sports. We posted that in the Twitch pitch. So is Sunderland going to get promoted? Okay, so Sharif with a lot of our math this morning. Charlotte to DC is 7, Raleigh to DC is 5. Don't know if Chapel Hill be able to handle all of it. Sunderland going to the Premier League. Let's take a look. And to check in with our friends at Odds Portal. And remember, we've got Europa League and Europa Conference League going on today. We'll get into that as we go. So in the championship right now, so League One standings. We'll get into that. So, all right, so championship is where I need to go. I don't need to be in League One. So championship. I think Sunderland has some work to do to get into the promotion playoff. They do, but it's not a lot. Here's how crazy the championship is, just for points of order. All right, so 46 matches, and Jess is gnashing her teeth because she's in a relegation battle, as she mentioned at the beginning of the show. Jessica Charman did. Relegation battle. Wigan's at 37, Blackpool's at 38. Reading has drawn 4 of their last 5. They're at 43 points, which included a federation decision because they're not paying their bills, not paying their players. QPR's at 44, Huddersfield's at 44, Cardiff's at 43, Rotherham's at 46. So basically you have 5 teams for one spot, that 22nd place, which is the third team to get relegated. And we've talked about how many times in the past, basically the lower half of the table is a bunch of the Premier League veterans that have yet to find their way back to getting close to being in the Premier League. Right now, Millwall is in 5th place at 65 points. Blank you on Millwall. At this point, they could be in the promotion playoff. They have 3 matches to go. 46 matches total. 3 matches for Millwall. They're at 65 points. Blackburn, match in hand, has 64 points. West Brom, who lost Daryl Dike to an Achilles injury, he's out 6 to 9 months. Dike was doing really well with West Brom, and he's now got an Achilles injury, so he's out for a long time. West Brom, 4 matches to go, 63 points. They've won their last 2. Coventry City, John Nason, happy, unbeaten in their last 4, although they've only won once, 63 points. Sunderland is 9th, 3 matches to go, so they can max out at 71. Once again, they can't get any higher than 5th. Unbeaten in their last 5, they've won 2 of their last 3. Norwich, and our friend Michelle Not a Lab, Shelley Paravani and her folks, once again, they have 3 matches to go. They max out at 71 points, ahead of Preston North End on goal difference. Watford's at 59, Swansea's at 59, and those are the ones that have the outside shot. So you have 3, 6, 9 teams separated by 6 points getting into a promotion playoff. 9 teams, 2 spots. That's what you're staring at right now, basically 5 through 13. Sunderland could be promoted, but they have to make up 2 points minimum with 3 matches to go and get into the promotion playoff. So that's the long answer to the question. Coco, they could. They got some work to do. Bam, rumors that Bayern are coming to Australia to play the A-League All-Stars. Rich, Chelsea's playing in Philadelphia the same night as Union playing in Leagues Cup. Already expected Leagues Cup game will be less than 3,000 folks. Wow. Which one are you going to, Rich? Summer tours. La Liga is going to be in Mexico doing a doubleheader at the Giants Stadium. Okay. Atleti Sevilla, Betis, and Real Sociedad. Interesting. That will be interesting. And for the wind and the cold, that will be interesting. Yeah, Blackburn needs to drop points if Sunderland get into the playoffs. Blackburn, West Brom each have a game in hand. So, so there's a lot of stuff going on right now with all of that. Programming reminders, once again. Thursdays with Nico live on the network at 12:30. And so we'll get his Western perspective for a half an hour. Then the doubleheader at River Ridge. Girls, River Ridge and Roswell's at 5:30. And then 7:30 or shortly thereafter, if the women's game, girls game goes for a while, boys, River Ridge and Sprayberry. Jason will be on the call for the boys. I'll have the call for the girls at River Ridge. And then we will determine what our early week is going to be like in the round of 8. And there are some matchups that could be very, very spicy across the board in stuff that has already been decided. You've got Midtown and McIntosh, doubleheader, possibly Monday or Tuesday, and it will be at Midtown. So we don't know the where or the when yet, but you've got McIntosh and Midtown going at each other. Chambly and Cambridge. If you are in Alpharetta area on Monday the 24th, Chambly, top-ranked team in 5A girls, ranked nationally, going up against Cambridge at Cambridge. Tough test. You've got Jessica Charman. We talked to Jess about what's going on in Quad A. They've got a trip to Leavitt. It's a lot better than going to Brooklet and going to Columbus. But to Jess's point, Region 4, all 4 teams out of Region 4 made the final 8 on the girls' side. You've also got, let me see, what else do we have here? Fitzgerald's girls have made it to the Final 8 in AA, as has Ace Charter. Toombs County making it to the Final 8 in AA. Very, very cool there. You have single A. You've got single A D2 on the girls' side, a lot of new faces, but you've got Lake Oconee Academy, who's making their runs deep into the playoffs. They're there. Aquinas, I know a lot of folks are looking at them on the boys and the girls' side in Class A D2. But it's good to see folks like Towns County out of Hiawassee, Hawkinsville, ACA, who we covered going up against Lincoln County, Dooley County and MCA, Mount Zion Carroll and Aquinas, Class A D1 girls. You've got Temple making it. Commerce and Bleckley, very, very below the radar fun game on the girls' side in Class A D1 girls. So that will be an interesting one. On the boys' side, yeah, I know, La Liga Soccer in a baseball stadium. Very, very weird. I'd love to know what their setup's going to be. 7A boys, Norcross and Archer, Walton and Parkview, Campbell Collins Hill, Richmond Hill going to Lambert. That one's going to be a tough one for them. 6A is decided today before they get into the round of 8. Dalton hosting Chambly on the boys' side in 5A. McIntosh Midtown on the right-hand side of the bracket. Bradwell Institute making it to the Final 8 in 5A. Quad A's decided today. You've had AAA, Oconee County at Pike, Wesleyan at Columbus, and this is next Tuesday. Savannah Country Day hosting Hebron Christian, Peach County, and Coahulla Creek. AA, that one's being decided today on the boys' side. Class A D2, seeing a team like Atkinson County make it to the Final 8, going up against Aquinas. It's going to be a tall order, but that one will be in Pearson next week. Lake Oconee Academy chasing after the double, but they've got to go to Christian Heritage on the boys' side. Mount Zion Carroll's got to travel to Portal. Fuji's Academy making it out of round 2, beating Chatco 5-1. They go to GMC down in Milledgeville. Atlanta International School goes to Alma to take on Bacon County in D1. Whitfield at Claxton after Claxton beat Bleckley County 3-1, a bit of a surprise. Armurchie to Woodville Tompkins, and Lamar County as the 1. They go to Paideia. Paideia putting a number, put 9 on Tryon. So when we know what our schedule is next week, we'll let you know. Probably something Monday, probably something Tuesday. And when we know what those matches are, well, obviously we'll let you know. But today, doubleheader River Ridge, 5:30, 7:30 scheduled. Girls versus Roswell, boys versus Sprayberry. Very, very cool stuff here on the network. So there's a lot going on. Odds and ends before we get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo and things left unsaid. Did you see that Brasileiro matches are being investigated for match fixing? Brazilian authorities announced that at least 6, one more than 5, from last season are being investigated for match fixing. Police officials recently raided homes of businessmen and players allegedly associated with the infractions, involved defendants across 16 cities in 6 Brazilian states. Initial investigation back in November first focused on 3 matches. The AP is now reporting that authorities are now looking at up to 11 total games around the nation. Some of the fixtures in question are from the lower domestic leagues, though. Investigators in the case claim bettors offered players money to perform different duties during the games. Don't know what that means. Apparently involved anything from giving out corner kicks to committing penalties. Participating players would then receive anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 for the specific tasks. Games Magazine Brazil is reporting certain players on Cuiabá, Juventude, Red Bull Bragantino, it's interesting how the show goes in a circle, and Santos took part in the scandal. Yes, Coco, Brazil, gonna Brazil. All 6 of the players involving Brazilian top flight teams had to receive a yellow card. Bettors requested players in the lower leagues perform more serious infractions, included committing penalties and even having their specific teams beat down at halftime. So you have the halftime prop. Government officials have not yet officially named any players involved in the match-fixing ring. Nevertheless, the aforementioned news outlet claims that Victor Ramos, currently with Chapecoense, had his cell phone taken away by police in the raid. Red Bull Bragantino's Kevin Joel Lamonaco also has involvement. Defender was apparently served a search warrant at his home during the investigation. Officials have determined that a Bragantino player was asked to receive a yellow card during a matchup with America MG in November. Despite the raid, authorities arrested or jailed no player in the investigation just yet. There are, however, suggestions 3 non-players have arrest warrants. So keep an eye on that. Yeah, and so the other element that we're talking about, Erling Haaland. Manchester City supposedly preparing a new deal. Athletic now reporting that the reigning Premier League champs want to lock him down until the summer of 27. That's when the contract currently runs out. City hoping to tie the striker down to avoid any temptations. Real Madrid's already been linked. Current contract at City has included a special release clause. Any club willing to shell out $186 million for Erling Haaland would trigger the clause in the summer of 24. However, this stip apparently has now been removed from the deal. In the now deleted clause, Haaland could have opted to move away from City in 24 should Pep not be the team manager. Guardiola has now signed an extension to keep him at the club until 2025. 47 goals, 39 matches, 32 goals in 28 matches in the Premier League, tying the 38-game league record already. 8 games left on the schedule to break Salah's record. Recently re-signed Julian Alvarez, made similar moves with Ruben Dias and with Ederson, making sure that he stays in-house, making sure that Erling Haaland does not go anywhere. Or if they do, that the price tag is so high that it will definitely be worth Manchester City's while when it comes to Erling Haaland and his activities going forward. Soccer on the tube, and we'll go through juice boxes too. BNB en Español, triple header. Racing Club at 6. Palmeiras and Cerro Porteño at 8. Libertad and Alianza Lima at 10. If you don't have a BN or any of the other networks like Gold TV or anything like that, for the fans, Teisei, Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Does some good for you, does some good for the show, does some good for Fanatis. Jason got me hooked. I blame him. Europa League, Sevilla, Manchester United at 3 o'clock on 2 to NA. Same on Unimas. Golasso Network has Conference League action. AZ Alkmaar, Anderlecht at 12:45. West Ham and Ghent at 3. Paramount Plus has all 4 Europa League matches. Roma Feyenoord, Sevilla, Manchester United, Sporting, Juve, and Union Saint-Gilloise and Bayer Leverkusen has all 4 Europa Conference League games. AZ Anderlecht, Fiorentina, Lech Poznan, 12:45. Nice, Basel, West Ham, Ghent at 3. VIX has Sporting and Juve at 3. VIX Plus has the other 7. So that's what you're staring at with those matchups. Looking at your juice boxes in these, and this is just for today, not for winning, the whole shebang. Roma's a favorite at home at a -130. Bayer Leverkusen's a favorite on the road at a +102. Manchester United a favorite at home against Sevilla at Sevilla at a +104. I'd take Sevilla in that one. Sporting a favorite at home at a +129 against Juve. Europa Conference League. All the home teams are favored. AZ Alkmaar at a -145 with Anderlecht. Fiorentina a -294 with Lech Poznan. Nice a -196 with Basel. West Ham a -182 with Ghent. Early numbers for your Champions League semis. Barcelona at Chelsea is a -233, and that's on Saturday. Sunday morning early, at least it's 9:30 Eastern time. Wolfsburg a favorite at a -169 against Arsenal. So you've got that going on. Also on the board this morning, it is Night Bam, 1 a.m., time for bed. Good for you. Thanks for hanging out with us. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and things left unsaid before we go. You got in your gossip columns, and once again, we try to avoid the 3 and the 4-letter paper. Chelsea decided against pursuing Luis Enrique to become their new manager. Will instead turn their attention to Mauricio Pochettino. So my guess is that means that Spurs will be chasing after Luis Enrique. Julian Nagelsmann impressed during initial talks with Chelsea, seen the likeliest candidate, and that's from our friends at The Guardian. Some of Chelsea's players will see their wages reduced by at least 30% with the club set to miss out on Champions League next year. That's from the four-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Manchester United interested in signing Bayer Leverkusen's Jeremy Frimpong. United prepared to offload Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Diogo Dalot. That's from the four-letter paper. Barcelona would not be able to sign Lionel Messi from PSG in their current financial situation, according to La Liga president Javier Tebas. Color me shocked. West Ham have identified Lille's Paulo Fonseca as a possible replacement for David Moyes, likely to part company with the club at the end of the season, from The Guardian. Arsenal could sell Valerian Balogun to RB Leipzig to help fund a £100 million move for Declan Rice. Real Madrid's Karim Benzema signed a one-year contract extension, keeping him there till 2024. AC Milan's Rafael Leao has confirmed he wants to stay despite interest from Manchester City. Bayern Munich's Ryan Gravenberch, another player being considered by Liverpool for their midfield. Manchester United and Newcastle interested in Sporting Lisbon's Gonzalo Inacio. West Ham could have a big summer exodus. Well, yeah. Lanzini, Ogbonna, Kufal, Cresswell, Fornals, and Souček set to follow Declan Rice out the door. Toni Kroos could sign a new deal with Real Madrid despite reports he may retire. That's from the four-letter paper. Spurs interested in the move for Levi Colwill from Chelsea, who was impressed on loan with Brighton. That's from the three-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Manchester City captain Ilkay Gundogan, who's been linked with Barca, says he must assess if his 32-year-old body is up to the rigors of another season in England. And then Chelsea could, according to Bild, offload either or both Edouard Mendy or Kepa Arrizabalaga in order to sign Gregor Kobel from Borussia Dortmund. So there's that. Yeah, I know, Knicks, exactly. Didn't know you get your wages cut when you miss out on UCL. Well, it's probably one of those where you're like, you can take the 30%, or you could not be here. Might be something like that. And so that's what I'm thinking that it might be. Also in the papers, Pep fears that Manchester City might be exhausted for the run-in. He's also hoping that the injury to Nathan Ake is not too bad. Let's see. Yeah, Chelsea stars are considering their futures, and 19 player wages when they fail to qualify for next season's Champions League. So keep an eye on that. Telegraph has said Chelsea have not placed Luis Enrique among their leading candidates. Chelsea owners Todd Bowley and Bedat Iqbali made another trip to the dressing room Tuesday night, but this time steered clear of making any speeches to the players. And apparently there was another time where early on in the season, Todd Bowley wanted to take some guests down to the locker room, and he was kind of told, well, they're kind of busy at the moment. So, appreciate it, but they kind of have to stay outside the dressing room. Manchester United and City are facing calls from anti-discrimination campaigners to amend their badges amid suggestions that the boats on their motifs are linked to slavery. New breakaway European football politics will have the considerable support of Javier Tebas to challenge the authority of the European Club Association, run by his arch-rival PSG chairman Nasser Al-Khelaifi. And Ben Jacobs had a little bit more on that. Let me see if I can find the article that was attached to that one. So let me see if I can find it quickly. Now, Chelsea's playing Wrexham. We knew that. Amy Rodriguez officially announced for what we talked about earlier. Ben Jacobs. At least 3 Premier League teams are considering joining the new Union of European Clubs, which launches in Brussels on Monday and has the support of Javier Tebas. Crystal Palace is definitely in. Tebas is not the founder or running the UEC, but he's lending firm support. Project is driven by Denis Gudasic of Lokomotiv Zagreb and lawyers Katarina Pietlovic and Gareth Farrelly. UEC is not positioning itself as a toy in the fight between Tebas and Nasser Al-Khelaifi. Tebas and La Liga didn't come up with it, but after meeting the founders a few months ago, they're backing it. UEC believe that all men's and women's clubs should be represented, especially those from smaller or mid-sized leagues, and will offer one club, one vote membership. The UEC really don't want to be a threat or a rival to the ECA, but they don't recognize their legitimacy. Al-Khelaifi has made this clear, quote, anyone joining another unrepresentative startup should question their legitimacy. Khelaifi, back on the 28th, when he was asked about UEC, I've barely heard of them. Are they the next A22? They were the promoters of the Super League. Khelaifi held a meeting with representatives of the UEC recently, stated he would strongly oppose the new body. ECA reiterate they're the sole representative of European clubs, stressing at their General Assembly that their membership has widened, including new women's teams, but the UEC believe too many clubs, more than 1,000, don't have a voice, and they will outline their vision next week. So we'll keep an eye on that one, and we'll see what happens there with that. Also on the board, we mentioned what's going on with the Guardian. We mentioned what's going on with Karim Benzema. Will Still could sideline his love for West Ham to take over at Tottenham in the summer following results of a surprise meeting. You've got Manchester City handing New Holland the new deal. Daily Express, Spurs reportedly demanding a fee in the region of £88 million for Harry Kane this summer. PSG now set to rival Manchester United for the signature. Liverpool's interest in Mason Mount looking more likely to bear fruit with that wage cut set to kick in. You also have, Wrexham, according to the Independent. Wrexham's Ryan Reynolds has promised a monster party if the team can defeat Boreham Wood and win the title on Saturday. Daily Record, Michael Beale confident his scouting team will be able to bring a Champions League level talent to Rangers this summer, despite the departure of sporting director Ross Wilson. And Aberdeen have been told that there is no chance of further appeals over the Shinnie red card against Ross County because of the rule book they helped to write. So good work by Aberdeen in that case. So we have not talked about John Yems getting his ban extended. We need to bookmark that. So I saw that, and it's there's a lot to digest with John Yems. So bookmark that because I do want to talk about it. And where he wasn't the phraseology, and I don't want to get the phraseology wrong, but the phraseology in the case was flawed when describing Yems in the first place. So Ricky, do me a favor, bookmark that. We'll talk about it. Let's see. What else have I forgotten before we go? Anything. We've gone through the papers and gone through all of that stuff. So I think that'll do it. Once again, reminder, Thursdays with Nico's at 12:30 on the network. And then from there, it is 5:30, 7:30, Sprayberry and River Ridge and Roswell, River Ridge and Sprayberry. That's what you're going to have on the network tonight in the round of 16 for the playoffs, and obviously more playoffs when we figure out what the playoffs are going to look like Monday and Tuesday. So we'll keep an eye on all that stuff. So it's great to catch up with Jessica Charman on the sprint this morning, and we will catch up with everybody again tomorrow. Remember, 9 o'clock is normal, 9:30. Greg Garza was on the Telemundo broadcast last night. So next time Greg is on the show, we'll have to talk about Greg and his TV prowess and his future in television as an analyst. But, so Greg was on the match last night. 9:30, our friends from Beyond Goals. 10 o'clock weekend whip around, patent pending, trademark coming sooner, probably, hopefully, rather than later, where we go through the entire weekend in Major League Soccer and get you ready for everything going on for the weekend, because it's the Twos on Saturday, Big Club on Sunday with Chicago coming to town, 4:55 kick, and that will be on, I think it's on Star, but we'll catch up with Jason because I think the Hawks playoffs are going to be part and parcel to figuring out where Atlanta United are going to be. So weekend whip around at 10, Beyond Goals at 9:30, on the air at 9:05, getting you ready for the weekend. Big match for Atlanta and Chicago. We'll see what happens there. So for everybody here at SDH, thanks for hanging out with us. Once again, Thursdays with Nico, 12:30. High school soccer, 5:30, 7:30. Busy day here on the network, and we will catch up with you tomorrow since it is the end of the show. For Jared, for Jason, for Nick, for Jess, for everybody here at SDH, I'm just John. We'll be back in short order the Thursdays with Nico. And since it's the end of the show, that means that I get to do this. Play it safe, everybody. Much plot. We'll see you in a little bit.